Ohio. We're high on Ohio. These stories inform and inspire through the words of people who make Ohio home. Good news and good ideas, identifying and acknowledging the excellence that is all around us. Ohio actually is, by tradition, a very welcoming state.
Very welcoming, very open to ideas. I mean, that's why we've invented many of the major things in this world. That's why we have.
Are we keeping up with that?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I worry that this dissension in politics can lead to shutting some of that down. And, you know, I think that overreaching on some things sends the wrong message. I mean, you know, you know, abortion is a flashpoint issue, and I get that people have different views than me on it. But I also think you have to recognize that that Roe v. Wade has happened, and there are people in this state that believe differently than people that are pro-life. And I think sometimes the message that we send when we use a budget, as we just did, as a cudgel to just beat down, it's more like a sport. It's more like not a reason kind of like thing. And so that's why I say single issues as well as politicians. When you focus only on that, it's a problem. I get that some folks in religious communities don't agree with me on that, but does that mean as a leader on the left that I don't work with them on social justice issues or against the death penalty, which I've always been against? Does that mean that when I go to an African American church and I'm invited there and I speak there, and I know as a gay Ohioan, because I am gay, that probably that preacher doesn't preach for my civil rights, even though I'm preaching for their civil rights? Does that mean that I go back home and I say I'm not preaching for their civil rights anymore? No. Does it mean that I want them to have a common understanding and that I want them to recognize who I am and eventually expand their worldview? Yes. And I do think that, you know, that issue alone, as a gay Ohioan, is the one thing that troubles me the most about the state. And I have to say that on behalf of other people who are LGBT or their families in the state. I mean, to have in the Ohio Constitution, which was passed in 2004, a majority provision that basically says you can't get married, you can't get benefits, you know, arguably you can't get insurance, you don't matter. You know, we are singled out. It's the only thing left singled out in the Ohio Constitution at a certain class of people. That really sends a really bad message. So in that respect, it's the one piece of Ohio that I think is troubling. But I'm really optimistic that over time that's going to go away too. It really will.
One question that we're asking every participant in this is, now we've had a very optimistic conversation here. Most of this has been talking about, but here's sort of a pessimistic one, but hoping also you have an answer to it. What keeps you up at night?
Oh, wow. What keeps me up at night? You know, there's a lot that keeps me up at night, other than, you know, I have to run a business, and I feel for those of you that are out there that want to aspire to run a business, you know, there are people with their livelihoods at stake, and I have to make sure that I raise money and do those kind of things. But I think what keeps me up awake the most is exactly what we're talking about, the tenor of how things come across. The nastiness of how politics is a sport as opposed to the focus on issues in people's real lives. The fact that I know, because I've been out there, that people hurt, and there's not much I can do about it. That this debate sometimes about poverty is more about politics than it is about people. I worry as a leader about what I'm leaving behind. Like, you know, whether Progress Ohio is here after I leave, which I think it will be, we're in our 8th year. I wonder to myself, like, are we going to leave behind opportunity for people that maybe didn't get born into that opportunity? Or are we leaving a world in which, your options are limited?